I could tell something was wrong. The mood in my third grade class just seemed off. And I asked my students to explain what was troubling them, what's going on. And I noticed in the corner my student Jaden fighting back tears. And now Jaden had some behavioral concerns. He would storm out of class sometimes, put his head down, but would never really explain why. But on that day, Jaden shared something with the group he had never shared before. His parents were getting a divorce. And as he spoke, I became 7 years old all over again. So sad thinking about the tree outside my classroom window, because that tree outside of my classroom window reminded me of where my dad and I played in our old house before he left our house and my parents got divorced. And for too many young Black men like Jaden and many of my students, expressing emotion is discouraged and difficult. And so I instantly understood why Jaden acted out. And I began crying with him. But I told him, Jaden, I've experienced this. Your parents still love you, and they still care about you. Nothing you could have done could ever change that. And I shared with him not just my story, but also how I was able to heal and triumph over that challenge that too many children have faced of their parents divorcing. And Jaden was not only able to heal, but he was also able to have his behavior and his life changed. And there's this phrase with educators we often say, that kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so if I tell you what that means more to me, I think about my little guy, Antonio. For the first 2 months, count them, 2 months of school, Antonio ran out of my classroom every single day, knocking down books, tearing things off the wall. And one time, he screamed at me, "I hate you." And I said, "Well, boo, I love you. And when you want to talk, I'm here." But I realized in that moment, I had to build a stronger relationship with Antonio. So I decided to do a home visit and get to know his family and play the PlayStation and see the dances they listen to. But also, I learned about the traumas that he experienced at the tender age of 8 years old. Traumas that had built up a literal wall, so his body was in a constant source of stress at all times. And I realized I had to continue to build that relationship, but also to give him the space that he needed. And soon, Antonio went from not being able to read very well to improving so much, we were able to reduce his special education hours. And he just texted me tonight and said, "Ms. Harper, I got all A's and B's." And he told me to tell you he was the #1 track student citywide. Yes. But I also think about my own father, who dropped out of Roosevelt High School right here in Washington, D.C., until teachers and counselors worked relentlessly to get him back on track. They told him, no matter what your behavior says, you are smart and you can go to college. And they were right, because not only did he go back to school, he also graduated on time and went to the University of Pittsburgh on a scholarship with grants. Because when I think about great teachers, if those teachers had given up on my father, I would not be standing here today. He met my mother at the University of Pittsburgh. But also, instead of seeing a high school dropout, they knew that his story was not over, but it was just beginning. And when I also think about my second grade teacher, she saw that sobbing little girl and chose to look past my misbehavior that was basically because of my trauma feeling about my parents' divorce, and instead saw the woman who would become the DC Teacher of the Year and a finalist for the National Teacher of the Year. Thank you. And so when I have these days, and we have them as teachers, where I want to give up on students like Jaden and Antonio, I think they could be my family. And really, they could be me. But I know that their challenges is not where their story ends. They deserve educators that will work relentlessly to learn their stories and build strong relationships. They deserve educators that make sure that no matter what zip code they're born in, that their students are kings and queens, and while their crown may tilt, it will never fall. And they also deserve an educational system in this region that will not rest until the day that each child has a truly excellent education that will change their lives and the lives of their communities. Alejandro, Justin, and I joined Teach for America because we believe that day is possible. And with your support, you're helping us move one step closer. Thank you.